Hello.
All right, live. 4:01, I'll call this meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee on Audit to order. Let the record reflect that all members are present. In approval of minutes from October 7th.
I approve the minutes. Make a motion to approve the minutes for October 2nd.
Proper motion, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That leads us to public comment, and I have any members of the public at this time. First item, we're going to take these together really. Since October 7th, Charles has been working on some documents and kind of putting together some of the stuff we talked about on the 7th. We met Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, to just make sure this was kind of on the right track and secure this and present to you next time. We're going to have Charles go over them right now. I think in order, probably the crash course. Is that right, Charles?
Yeah.
Go over that and talk about that. Again, I know we talked basics of what's in the charter and those other things, but this is kind of more in-depth analysis of what audit is, why we do it. Charles, go ahead.
Okay. So at the beginning, again, we go over the city charter and highlighting some of the big points that are included in there. And it pretty well matches up with a professional group called the Internal Audit Association, IAA. And a lot of what their requirements or expectations are as well of an internal auditor. It matches up very well with what they're expecting as well. The independence, competent professionals, type of things that they look at, the reporting structure and all that. So what we're expecting from the charter matches up very well with the professional literature that's out there. That's really what this does. On the first page of the crash course. The second one is more getting into the details. Okay, based on that, we have this ad hoc committee, which is sort of like an audit committee. They have guidance as far as what that does as well, as far as the direction that goes in. Again, city resolution calls for guidance and oversight, performance of my responsibilities, review the audit plans, evaluate the position, and the internal audit charter. Committee charter recommend also goes over, independent oversight of the organization, governance, risk management, and that. And then I try to fit in the next part where it fits into overall to an organization. It being the ad hoc committee, and outside of management, outside of company or organization type thing to look in and see what's going on and use an internal auditor's expertise to verify what is going on is what they're expecting, and management reports are reliable, and any special other things that they have, specials that they have as an organization. So that's where this fits in. It also shows that there's 3 layers of risk management. Management has 2 layers of that. One is the people performing the day-to-day activities, what their due diligence is day in, day out when they make decisions, process transactions, things like that. That's a key risk mitigator. And then also the people supervising them as well, making sure that everything's being done according to expectations, according to budget set expectations and that. And then the third layer is usually referred to as internal audit, going around sort of verifying that what we expect is to be occurring is occurring and validating the assumptions. Questions? No? All right. The page 4 has those IIA lines model. It changes format through years. Used to be literal line 1, 2, 3. Now it's more of a 3-way sort of group effort here. But it sort of helps line out the roles that are being done to mitigate risk with an organization and how internal audit fits in with that, and then the governing body over the top. Page 8 then talks about how we do that as an internal auditor, our audit process of how do we audit a particular topic. We go in, we start planning, we develop an understanding of where the assignment is. We have meetings with the person that we're auditing to understand what they know about it. We organize a timeline and expectations, and then After that, the field work comes in, the actual testing, samples, looking at things, asking questions, getting responses. If there's any issues found, then that's brought up and validated. Then there's, at the end of that, there's an exit meeting where we review what we intended to do, what we got done, what any of the findings we have are, and what the next steps are going to be in completing. Follow that reporting, that's usually where we finalize all of our knowledge of what has occurred, and then management may or may not at that time have corrective action plans if there's any issues. It doesn't necessarily need to be some, but that's usually at that point. And then afterwards, if there are issues, the auditor will follow up to verify that corrective action plans are occurring or being implemented. That's the overall audit process.
Charles, did I completely zone out? Did you go over the definition of risk? Okay, sorry. Everyone's been reading up it. Okay, sorry about that.
I don't know if I really did.
In the
Val,
previous
Val, did you
page,
go over that?
oh, you described risk in several layers.
Right.
I'm sorry, I must have been reading. Okay.
Risk is usually called describe the possibility of something bad happening. And there's, it's pretty analogous, or not analogous, but a generic term, but it's just sort of what could go wrong, and then how are we do to either prevent that from happening, detect that it's happening, or just reduce the impact that it might have to us. And it's just really what everybody does as far as managing day-to-day activities and the city managing their day-to-day activities. Not just getting things done, but making sure they're doing it right.
Charles, real quick, in the entrance meeting portion, where it's explain timing and resources, is there is the time frame pretty more gray area versus black and white, or is there a suggested time frame in order to receive that information?
Timing is about, what whomever I may be auditing, if they have certain activities coming up, and I want to respect that. If, let's say, finance has an external audit going on, I don't want to overburden them with my work coming in, trying to duplicate over the top of that. So I have to be respectful of what their, responsibilities are. At the same time, laying out here's the time frame that I might need, a month, 2 months, or however long to perform my audit. Let's figure out how to fit it into your needs and my needs at the same time. So it's a collaborative process to try to figure out how to fit this in to get things done.
I do have another question. When you conduct interviews in this third field here for field work, who would you be interviewing? Is it, all management? Is it a voice from different types of employees, or how do you go about that?
Usually by the time we're going into field work, it's more understanding in depth the activities that happen that I'm auditing. So maybe a supervisor or manager telling me, okay, how do you get X, Y, Z done? Who does this? What's the timing of it? What applications do you use? Who are the key individuals? Need to know, sort of mapping out what goes on here. That's a formal type of interview. And then after that, I might get into more desktop procedures if I don't understand exactly how do you match up a three-way match of this invoice.
Okay.
What software do you use? Do you use software? Do you have to call somebody? Those might be further down the line. At the high level ones here are more just a more detailed understanding of activities in the process, but not really so much interviewing management. I would have already interviewed them in the planning phases to get a scoping guidelines, where I'm going versus keeping a broad scope, knowing what departments, what groups I might be talking to. Then a handout, I don't know if you have it there. It's a sort of an example of kind of an audit plan. Is there a handout?
Yeah, I have it.
This one?
This one or
The one you just put on the table today?
Yes, the audit strategy.
Okay. Yes, there we are.
This sort of walks through kind of in more of a detail of, let's say I was auditing the month-end close process, I was looking at account reconciliations. What type of considerations, thought process I would go through as far as auditing that. And this is just specific to that particular activity, month-end close reconciliations. What key assessments, assertions does that address as far as the financial statements, and then understanding from the process owner how those are mitigated, what activities are being performed, and then developing audit procedures to verify that those are occurring or not occurring. And so this walks through, the accuracy and validation, existence, completeness, rights and obligation. There's a few other assertions that aren't related to this one. Is reporting how the cash accounts roll up into the financial statements. That's out of scope of this type of audit activity. So this is where the interviewing of individuals comes into play to understand, okay, who does the reconciliations, how often are they done, what accounts are done, again, the systems, who reviews them, what's the timeline on those, where the key points of data are obtained from, and that'll give me an idea of, okay, what are the ways I'm going to audit those activities. If it's a system type thing, I can find out what systems there are and what controls are in place of that. If it's manual, where do I have to go to look for them? Are all these centralized? It sort of scopes it in. And that's just the audit procedures, the test steps to do. There's still the population that I choose from. Do I do a full year of reconciliation? Do I pick out 6 months? Is it full all accounts? Is it for a certain subgroup accounts? What issues have we seen in the past? What expectations are? There's all these other scoping things that need to be considered even before the actual just testing of internal controls. The controls are relying on if there's a reconciliation that's performed, will it be performed the same every time? So to me, it doesn't matter if it's one rec versus another, just as long as the key activities are occurring, reviews are being done, assets are the balances are being pulled in, what the considerations are. It's analogous to activities are happening, but as long as the same steps are being performed, and I verify those steps are being performed, all the transactions going through are going to be fine. Otherwise, another internal auditor might just say, okay, we need to know what the cash balance is at 12/31 year end, and they only look at the reconciliation at 12/30 to verify that account balance is what they say it is. Mine is more of running along as we're working that, okay, if it's running today, nothing's changed in the significant people, processes, or systems, it will be running the same in the future. Okay. Leading into that is a draft audit plan of activities. It lists out prescribed activities that are in the charter, evaluating planning and budgeting, evaluating capital improvement plans, analyzing financial conditions. These are reoccurring things that will happen throughout the year. As it occurs, I'll review things and give reports. There's things that are inherent to the position, interacting with council that you see here as far as developing our budgets, monitoring spending, membership on various committees inside the organization, and then page 10 or page 2, I guess, of that is listing out some of the key activities that I think might be of value to perform throughout the year. To get familiar with what the systems are in place within the city, how to go about auditing them, who's key within the organization. We scoped out sort of a disbursements type right now for this year type test, looking at payroll type disbursements, the invoicing and any kind of expense reimbursement type. And again, depending on if it's the same departments doing activities, it doesn't matter if the selections are from the police department or the fire department, just as long as the process is the same, like in all those controls, and you get assurances that it's happening with every organization within the entity. So to start out with, I'll start sampling some of these every month, small samples, becoming more familiar with how the processes are occurring. Every month, give a report as far as the status of how many selections are taken, any findings that I'm having, any issues that are going on, and with the anticipation of coming towards year end, finalizing a report on all the work that's been done throughout the year samples. The other one is monitoring material changes. So there's a big finance implementation going on, so it's kind of hard to really audit that while it's occurring at the same time. So just maybe monitoring it, verifying things are happening, the key project management activities are occurring, milestones are being met or not met during the implementation, and then understanding some of the high level application controls. As systems are implemented, a lot of access is usually given, and then as they understand how it works, they pair that access back, just making sure that super users and things like that are becoming less and less as they become more familiar with the system. It's just monitoring that those project management activities are occurring. There's a step in here about the external audit. Previously, it said there's been opening and reporting meetings that an external auditor has with council. Not familiar with that. I haven't seen a lot as far as the documentation, but when that occurs, if it comes up, I'll tell you those. And again, external auditors, the last page here in this is a list of various audits that have occurred and the results recently thereof. The external auditors noted one material weakness, one significant deficiencies, and then there's a compliance issue as well. So I want to become familiar with those, how those are being corrected and remediated as it reflects to what I'm auditing. Then any ad hoc requests from the ad hoc committee or the council as it comes to this organization. So, out there.
That was a lot.
Any questions for us?
Well, I guess one of my questions for your timeline, that monthly sampling to begin when audit plan is approved, they continue until the audit plan is approved. Those monthly sampling, will you is that, and maybe that's a question that I can ask on as a whole. Is that something that will have to report back to ad hoc, or will that go to council as a whole?
Process-wise, it would be the ad hoc committee
monitoring
my performance of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, that's great.
No, not at this time, thank you.
With the audit plan, is it possible to make it more calendar form? Like this is sort of like a monthly thing. That's what we get in first quarter. This is what we do second quarter. Is it possible to sketch out, or you're not quite there and understanding the organization yet?
Yeah, we can sketch it out more in detail, as long as this high-level concept.
Yeah.
Good for you. I can develop more.
I think that would be good because then we and the rest of the council what's being done plan, as well as the administration, can kind of keep their handle around when those engagement letters might be coming.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And our next meeting is the 18th of November, right? Maybe we can refine that by then.
Yes.
Here for that,
Are you sure?
I think you leave the next day.
I do that way.
Yep, you leave the 19th.
Is there anything you want to ask us while we're here?
Is there anything that you feel I've missed that I should include in this as well, or consider, or you're looking to get out of this initial meeting here?
Missed anything. I did read the documents that were sent, forward a little earlier, so I had a concept of what was here and what you were presenting today, but I don't believe you've left anything out.
Is there something you were hoping you might see that I may have missed? Or?
What Peter mentioned, maybe just, a rough sketch of when you might look toward, this department versus another department, throughout the next year, but
Okay.
other than that.
After the mayor responds within 30 days, if there's any irregularities or whatnot, will that then circle still back to council after that? Based off of how it is reading the charter?
The crash course,
Yeah. After reading the charter.
402.6.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the charter. I don't know
I
how
can't remember if it does circle back to council after
strictly
that.
this has been followed in
Yeah.
the past.
So this is a question we probably, the city attorney, make sure they adhere to the charter, right?
Make sure they,
If they adhere to the charter, if they have to respond back to us 30 days.
I mean, it just says that a copy of each report on irregularities and erroneous accounting shall be referred to the mayor. Doesn't that section 40?
There's no action plan in there.
There's something further on down that bringing them all together.
So it says, promptly make a report to the city council on city agencies or any irregularities of practice and erroneous accounting methods with recommendations for improving the accounting procedures and systems of the agency. A copy of each report on irregularities and erroneous accounting methods shall be referred to the mayor. So to me, that seems to indicate that that would be a presentation to the full council on that specific report. But I'm not seeing specifically a 30-day.
Yeah, I might have to pull that out.
Yeah. Sounds here in the charter.
I guess I'm looking 4-102.6. The mayor shall respond to any internal auditor report on you know the word I'm trying to say, for some reason my tongue won't say it. Such response shall be made in writing to the city council within 30 days of receipt and shall contain the mayor's recommendation for the elimination or correction of the indicated irregularities or errors.
Thank you.
So it's not in that section.
So it's not in the internal auditor section. It is in the mayor's obligation section of the charter.
Oh, okay.
That was where the difference is. But so when there is that irregularity identified, it's presented to the full council. A report is submitted to the administration, and then the mayor has an opportunity thereafter and an obligation under the charter to respond within 30 days.
Respond to the council.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
We'll respond to the report, and so the response would be to the council, but specifically it would be responding to the report prepared by the
Right.
It is a response.
response.
Well, yeah,
It's not right.
it is their choice sometimes. I've seen where management will decide to accept the risk that's been identified. Yeah. We'll cross that bridge if we go there.
Right.
Yeah. We'll have to.
Let's get a plan in place first.
Yeah.
Right.
The only other comment I have is, now that I'm looking at 402.9, as you go through your process and as you engage with your work, if you find that you do not have adequate resources to perform your audits, please make us aware of that. I'm not exactly sure what resources you may or may not need at this time, but as your work progresses, please keep us informed of that.
Okay, thank you, we'll do.
You want to think Charles, I think, has taken this very seriously and has spent a lot of time communicating with us, committee, about the expectations for these committee meetings, and we're going to make sure we all have the committee to move forward. This is also pretty preliminary, obviously, but by the 18th, I think we should be firming up what we're presenting to council in December.
Right.
Here, I think is at the end of it. Any further business, committee? Seeing none. We are adjourned at 4:26.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.